Welcome to the Wisdom Village podcast. In a fast-paced technological world, our complex problems can seem insurmountable. By sharing amazing stories of real people who have overcome challenges, transformed themselves, and found mastery, we hope their wisdom will encourage and inspire you in your own journey. With proper guidance, resources, and support, anything is possible. For more treasures of wisdom, go to wisdomvillage.co/free.
Welcome to the Wisdom Village podcast. My name is Mike, and with me today, Joanna Whitney. You do sigil paintings, is that right?
I do psychic drawings, which I'm currently calling orographs, and then I do a sigil, which I'm changing that name pretty much to talisman to get away from the negative connotation to sigils.
Sure.
Which will set the person's intention after they get the information from the orograph reading.
I read about, was it Spar or Geisen that tried to take, there are people from like the turn of the century. Spar was kind of an artist who developed automatic writing and things like that.
Oh, yeah,
and it kind of all led this way, it looked like.
Oh, yeah.
And this other gentleman, Brian Geisen, he was an artist who took sigil and magic squares and created glyphs.
Wow, yeah.
Also considering them talisman.
Right. So Austin Osman Spare was an artist, but he studied under Aleister Crowley. And I don't know the other guy. And that's what I was trying to get away from.
Right, it has the occult connection.
Well, I have no problem with occult. Okay, because the occult just means hidden knowledge. That's all the word occult means, is hidden. However, there is a negative side and a positive side.
Okay, yeah.
And so I try to stay away from the negative side.
Sure, because
where it's all about personal gain. I'm not really interested in that.
I understand it like this was developed out of that, but to do it for positive. So it's more like, like once upon a time it was personal gain of a negative nature, or somehow make some situation solve, and now it's considered for places that need improvement or help, like positive things like change, bring good change,
right. So recently good. I found out about spiritualism, which there was a lot of artists who predated the abstract movement, even like a lot of female artists who were channeling spirits in the late 1800s, prior to Kandinsky and Piet Mondrian, that weren't accepted because that language, that abstract language, was yet to be accepted into modern culture. And they, somehow or another, they just got set aside. But there was a exhibit at the Guggenheim in 2018 by an artist named, I'm not going to remember her name exactly. It was Helma af Klimt, I believe was her name. And she had channeled this huge amount of artwork, and she'd asked for it not to be exhibited till after 50 years after her death. And it really, because she didn't want it to get caught up in the art world, because it was really a message being transmitted from a spirit that was showing what was going on in our world today. And I just recently came upon that. So that's more the type of work that I'm gearing towards now, although it was Austin Osman Spare that I found out about sigils. And also, I'm not going to remember this guy's name either. He's a comic artist.
Yes, Grant Morrison.
Yeah, Grant Morrison.
I was really amazed to find that little detail. Please tell
Grant Morrison. Yeah, so I really like what he's doing. I just don't like his attitude about it. To me, I couldn't do what he's doing because that's great that he's doing it. I don't want to put him down or anything, but for me personally, I couldn't venture into that dark space.
It's another flavor of things, I suppose. It's like, these things come through in many, many ways. If people listening, he came up with The Incredibles. the comic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, like that was a mind blower. We at Wisdom Village are trying to, you know, bring paths, ways to people, like, you know, just sort of offer these avenues, these directions, perhaps a guide, you know, what got you here. There's life events tend to put us in places that we never thought we'd see ourselves. Have you had some? I'm sure you have. Are there any experiences you'd like to talk about? Funny, you know, trying, difficult, that may have led to here.
Well, sure, absolutely.
Obstacles.
I mean, I grew up in a bizarre family, old money, and a lot of expectations placed on me, as well as not too much love, I would say. So to combat that, I started doing art when I was really little, like 4 or 5 years old. And I started speaking to spirits at that time too, but not always positive ones. And so I went down a pretty dark path myself for many years. And, you know, I mean, people in my family saw my art as a commercial venture. So I was sent off to school to get a commercial arts degree. And it was bad. You know, I did work as an illustrator in New York City for 5 years, and then I dried up, totally dried up, and I was completely frustrated. That
was the goal, and it turned out to be not at all, right?
It's just I couldn't do it anymore. But but then a friend of mine, and I was broke, of course, paid for me to take this class called Painting from the Source, which is she's still around, and it comes from this small group of people. I think it originated with this woman in California, Michelle Cassou, I believe is the originator of this process. It's intuitive painting. And so I took this weekend workshop with her, and I just totally tapped into this, like, felt like a river of creativity that all I had to do was just put my arm up and it would just flow out of me. But I had no idea, mentally what I was doing, but it didn't matter because it would just flow out of me. I would see it and then I would paint. And I was totally sold on it. So I just did that I left that weekend workshop, went off, and I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and I did a workshop myself, like the following weekend. Had all my friends over. We did that same technique, and I taught it, and then I just proceeded to continue to do it every day practically, because I always made art every day while I was drinking my coffee. So now I started doing this intuitive painting every day. So that was in 1989, and so I have done it now for over 30 years.
Great.
And then I went off to college. I went and got my master's degree in integrated electronic art at RPI, and I did that same technique where I would just show up I would walk around with my video camera and shoot whatever I liked. Then I would go into the studio and just put it all together, and it just would have its own sense. It would make its own sense itself, and I would just be the observer. Mm-hmm. And I learned that I could use this technique in any medium, and so I did performance art and all sorts of stuff. But then when I got out of school, I couldn't fathom dealing with the New York art scene and trying to figure that out. It was just too overwhelming for me. And I was like the renegade at that school because everybody else was doing conceptual art and trying to make a statement or something. And I just thought that was I just couldn't figure it. I couldn't figure that out. So I didn't pursue that at all. I just went back to painting and drawing. And I mean, I had a rough time of it, which with various things, just because I felt very much of a misfit and I couldn't really fit in, and I had weird ideas about relationships and stuff like that, and I got myself into a lot of very difficult situations. But it continued to hone, because for me at that time, and I think it's still true, like no pain, no gain, and
You want to learn some
I
lessons, you
had
better make
plenty.
some mistakes, right?
Plenty of pain, so I made plenty of art.
Thank you for joining us on the Wisdom Village podcast. It is our mission to uncover the wisdom that hasn't been popular in the mainstream and to connect you to wisdom keepers, experts, and guides that can help you find the source of wisdom within you. Whether your goal is to find healing, self-realization, or total transformation, Wisdom Village is here to support you along the way. To discover what Wisdom Village is and how it'll help you in your day-to-day life, go to wisdomvillage.co/free.